Welcome to ElkShape YouTube channel. So I've been talking about making a video on calling. So I'm gonna do it finally. Mom and the kids are out of town, so I figured I could get away with bugling. It's like 9:30 at night. I gotta get up early tomorrow, but I figured I'd get my bugle stuff out anyways. It's July, time is now to start practicing. Even if you're already pretty good, you could get better and learn new things. And I want to go over kind of the calls I'm going to use this year, the bugle I'm going to use, the whys behind it, give you a little background information on calling and diaphragms, really. Maybe talk a little bit about elk calling, like tricks. I'm definitely not the best elk caller. Like, I don't enter elk calling competitions. You're not going to see me there. Everything I've learned is from the woods, communicating with elk, and making mistakes and kind of figuring out on my own what works for me for the elk that I hunt. And it's a whole complicated language, or really maybe it's not that complicated at all, and it's more based on just the emotions that you can create and to get these animals to either want to fight or breed, pretty much looking for dominance or not interested at all. And so calling is, I don't think, the most important part of elk hunting. In fact, I would say the bigger the bull, the less calling I probably did. And so some of my biggest bulls, I didn't even make a sound at all. I snuck in on them while they were herd bulls. A lot of the bulls that I do call a lot with and then end up calling them in and killing them are satellite bulls. And so they're the raghorns, usually a small 6-point or smaller. And so just depends on what you're after. If you're just trying to kill any legal elk, and maybe you can only kill bulls and you'd be happy with a 4x4, 4x5 bull, then you're probably calling in with a partner would be awesome. So everything I'm going to tell you is based on calling solo. I've told you guys before, I don't really hunt with a partner. I do hunt a lot with my dad, try to call for my dad when I can. But when we arrive at elk camp, he goes his way, I go my way, and I do a lot of calling to find elk, as well as sometimes I call bulls in or work bulls with the call, and I do it solo. So a lot of my mindset is I don't have someone 70 yards behind me. I don't have that, but I also don't have someone that I need to wait for or second guess any decision that I make. That's why I like to hunt solo, is because I make very quick, abrupt decisions and I act upon them fast, and I don't take breaks very often, and I hunt from sun up to sundown. Sometimes I hunt at night, not with a bow, but finding elk. I'll pull all-nighters all the time during elk hunting season to find elk to hunt the next day. I try to get on the Elks program, and they're up all night, and they're up in the morning, and they're up in the afternoon, evening, and they sleep during the day. That's a good program to follow. So let's get into some of the stuff that I know. Again, I'm not an expert, not a professional caller, I'm not a professional hunter, just a schmuck, blue-collar dude who lives to bow hunt elk. I do a lot of my elk hunting in Idaho. I have hunted in almost every state out west, but most of my elk hunting happens in Idaho. So the game that I play is usually one of find elk that want to play. Where I hunt in Idaho, it's very brushy, like underbrush for days, thick, dense forest. There's not, like, you don't need 10x42 binos. A lot of times I don't pack binos at all. Because there's nowhere to really glass for elk. It's all timber. I don't hunt clear cuts. I usually hunt, like, the wilderness areas where it's not been logged and there's not a lot of meadows and stuff like that. So I need elk to talk in order to find them so I can kill them. So calling is pretty important. PhelpsGameCalls.com, that's who I partner with, Jason Phelps, and he's got the new AMP series. So I want to just run through real quick, while I can, all of his diaphragms and let you hear them, and you can kind of decide for like what you think's the best. This is the orange one. It's a single reed, kind of like a high-pitched cow, immature bull type thing. So that is the orange amp reed. The white is more of like a mature cow, more like a herd bull. This is kind of like your, I'm gonna do display calls, I'll get into that. I'm gonna do a challenge, bugles, chuckles, things like that. So it's kind of like a locator bugle. I'll talk about that in a second. That's your white. This is the black reed from Jason Phelps Game Calls. This one is also a medium pitch, more of like a raghorn. You can get a lot of volume with this one. That's the black. Here is the green, and this is a single, medium cow, medium bull. Again, that was a locator bugle. And then the gray, this is your medium single reed, as well as medium to large bull. And there you have it. So maybe you're wondering why diaphragms. Probably a lot of reasons. I'll just skimp over and just get to like some of the basic ones. Hands-free operation. This is your Bluetooth. You don't have to, you know, you can make your cow calls, your calf calls, and have a bow in hand and get drawn. So hands-free operation. You know, you have a lot more sounds you can make. Everything from a calf to a mature cow, like a mew. You can do barks, which I don't do, but you could do barks. You can make estrus cow calls. You can do your locators as well as your challenges, your displays, your chuckles, your grunts, yada yada yada. You just have, they're more versatile. Diaphragms are just basically all like shapes and sizes. I buy a lot of different ones and find the ones that fit my mouth the best. I usually go with a single reed. The thicker the latex, the more air it's going to take. The thinner the latex, the less air. It's all about width. It's all about fit to your mouth. And so I always recommend, I mean, there's so many different manufacturers and brands out there. You need to go find which one fits you the best. And I really like the amp one. I feel like this is some of the easiest ones to call. It is going to take some practicing, but I promise you, if you start now, you'll be ready come September. So we kind of talked about, hey, here are the different sounds. This is why you use a diaphragm. I think if I were to get called in by another hunter, I guarantee it won't be with a Primos Terminator bugle or that little step up do 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 do, you know, or the, you know, the power bugle, or anything that's not diaphragm is usually, for me, easier to decide if it's a hunter. And I hunt in a high pressure area, so I can, you know, if a guy like Corey Jacobson's out there with his, you know, his grunt tube and his diaphragm, I'm gonna probably get called into his, you know, because it probably sounds pretty darn realistic. So that's not to say you can't use, you know, non-diaphragm elk bugles and cow calls. They work great. But for me, the less stuff I have to carry around my neck, the better. a handful of diaphragms in a little pouch in my bino harness or in my little Sika vest, and I'm balling in one big grunt tube from Phelps Game Calls. This is the Unleashed elk bugle tube for 2017. It's awesome. It sounds great. So just didn't want to make a really long video on calling, so I'm just going to kind of get to what I would say is some basic language. So this is the black raghorn type medium. Know how to make just your basic mews, and I always kind of do them in succession. Rarely will I just do like a one mew. They're kind of saying E-O, E-O, pretty basic. If I'm like in an area, I usually cow call first, but even before I do a locator bugle, because if I can get a bull to answer from a cow call, that's awesome. He's interested. And you can change the levels of your pitches and your excitement. You can hit a couple of definite like medium-sized cows, and you can hit some calf calls. So the calf is going to be much higher, much more rapid. I've hunted with Larry D. Jones. He hammers that calf call. And you can hit your estrus calls. That's kind of like your E-O, E-O. You can also add a little bit of whine into it, like I'm very desperate. Again, I'm not an expert, dude. I just call elk in, so this is what works for me. I'm not gonna win any Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation calling award, and that's fine. The most important bugle sound to me is that locator bugle. It's just one note that's kind of a little bit longer. It's just like a hey, what's up, who's out there type thing. I usually don't start out with a grunt or end with a grunt. It's just kind of a high pitch cut off. To do the grunt, it's mainly just a grrr, grrr, like G-R-R-R-R. So you can do a grunt before, after, or both a bugle. So a locator, I probably won't. That's a good locator. That'll get another bull to answer. Wait 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, 90 seconds. And then if they answer you with kind of the same locator, they're just saying, yo, what's up? I'm here. There's no aggression, there's no emotion, there's no, I want to breed your cows, or get away from me, or I want to fight, or, you know, that kind of stuff. You're just going to read that language a little bit. But let's say I hit that locator and a bull answers me right away, and he kind of sounds like he could answer, or he could even just go right into a challenge bugle, which is a lot more aggression. And then that bull could be like, so he had a little grunt in the beginning, a grunt at the end. Maybe he climbed a couple of notes. He seems a little more like, more than just hi. That was a little more than like, hello. It was more like, yo. And then maybe you're not calling at all, and you're listening to elk, a big bull push some cows. Or maybe he's got cows in the meadow or somewhere and they're feeding by water, and he's just kind of bugling every 30 seconds to maybe once every 5 minutes or 15 minutes, and you hear this is like a display. This is where he's just kind of like, he's not concerned with you or any other bulls. He's just telling his cows, he's reminding them that he's the man. That was pretty like, I'm the dude, I'm the man. So there may be a little buzz in there or whatever, and to buzz you just buzz while you're making the call or whatever. So chuckles, I like chuckles a lot. A lot of people don't use them. I like chuckles when bulls are chuckling. And sometimes I won't even hit a high note. I'll just go right into chuckle, or I'll bugle with a chuckle. I've seen a lot of hunters do locator bugles with chuckles, and I don't understand. That just doesn't make sense to me. You're just like, chuckles is kind of trash talking, and if you're trying to locate elk, you don't need a trash talk. But let's say I'm in on a bull. I'm in this bedding area. I got the wind. I just threw out a basic bugle to his cows, and he answers pretty pissed off, like he does a challenge to me. I may bugle once more back at him with like a grunt at the beginning and the end, but I may even chuckle at the end, or I may even try to entice him to bugle back where I can cut him off. So let's say this is the bull that I just got to bugle at me, and I'm in his bedding area with his cows, and I got the wind, and I'm like 80 yards from him. So he just hit me with that. I'm going to answer maybe back with some chuckles, and then I'm also going to be ready to cut him off when he responds. Now he's going to bugle right back at me. This is him. Before he can get that much out, I'm going to go ahead and bugle over the top of him. And he's not going to like that. He's probably going to get up, and he's going to go right to a tree and start raking. And if you can hear him raking, you need to get on your ass and get going right at him. Don't worry about like trying to be a sniper and too sneaky, but just head right to him. If a bull's raking, their guard is down, and that's when you can close on them. There's a lot of different calling techniques or whatever. I would say the cutoff works real well when elk are in a bedded area and you've got them kind of there. It's really hard to, I mean, the winds can be fickle, but another good is the old, something that you might think about doing is, say you're working a bull, you guys have exchanged a handful of times, but he's just not coming. And you're not sure if he has cows. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. One thing I like to do is hit him with my last bugle, and he'll know exactly where you're standing. Elk have GPS, like they can hear the sound and they know the branch, the twig, the leaf you're standing on. So hit him back. And then maybe he doesn't answer you, or maybe he, whatever. Walk away. Walk 2, 3, 100 yards away, or 100 yards away, or 200 yards away. Don't make a sound. If he doesn't bugle in the next 5-10 minutes, I mean, you have this curiosity. He may bugle, and when he does, you can answer him further away with maybe some cow calls first. And then he may answer to that, or he may do nothing. Then hit him with your bugle. And then once you hit that bugle, don't make another sound. Go right back to where you originally were and a little closer to him. So you're going to go past. Now he's going to come, sneak away from his cows, or if he doesn't have cows, he's going to come over, and he'll probably come silent, but he's going to come around and see if he can get eyes on you. What he didn't know is that you moved up 250 yards, you're not there anymore, you're there, and he should be walking by you. So that's kind of like that walk away. I like to do that. There's a lot of different scenarios where that will work really well for you. So if it's something you never thought about, check that out. So like the last thing I want to go over, and this is like the solo elk calling tip of the century, is that a lot of times I'm on finger ridges or main ridges, and it's the morning, and I somehow got below the elk, and now I'm moving in on him because the thermals are still coming down, and he's talking, he's bugling back and forth with me. He's pretty interested, and I got a suspicion that he's coming. So the last time I'll bugle, I'm not going to stay right here. I am going to find the nearest solid game trail or opening or area 50 to 70 yards up the ridge, towards him. I'm going to tiptoe, not delicately, but I'm not going to try to break a bunch of sticks, but I'm going to haul ass 70 yards up, and then I'm going to set off to one side, hopefully the wind's coming down, where I think that bull's going to come by me. So he's coming to this sound that he heard last, and he knows exactly where you were standing. You got to move up because you're calling by yourself. You don't have a caller. Don't forget that that's critical. Another thing is like that, you know, that second week in September, maybe bulls haven't rounded up all their cows yet, or maybe a bull has cows and he's just tired of you and he wants to see what you're all about. Just know that if you're having a bugle fest with a pretty good sounding bull, most bulls that I've encountered want to get into range and they want to see you, and they prefer to be above you, because if you guys are going to square off, if you really were a bull and he comes up above you, they're going to display. Bulls do. I've seen it so many times. They display. They go like this, and they're basically showcasing what they got up top. And if they like their odds, they think that I can kick your ass, and then the feeling's mutual. That downhill bull is going to turn, and as soon as he does, that bull is going to turn, and they're going to meet up. But every bull that I've encountered, they don't like to be downhill. They want to be above you and have that gravity, so when they turn, they got a full head of steam to kick your ass. That is perfect, because when that bull comes through the brush or through the trees, he's going to have his head back, and then he's going to tip that thing up to display. That's when you need to have one of these in your mouth. He will stop right where you told him to, and then you will pick a spot and you will aim at that spot, and your pen will blur and it will be right in the spot, and all of a sudden that arrow's gone before you knew it, right through both lungs. And so that happens a lot where bulls will be above hill displaying. So bulls generally work up a lot of courage. If they get some bugling going, they'll rake a tree, they'll rake trees along the way, and that's where you can gain advantage and move in on them and whatever. And then if you're having a good bugle fest, that bull is coming and you couldn't maneuver too much, he's going to come in and display. The last bull I killed in Idaho was a perfect example. We bugled back and forth for like 35 minutes, and when I hit the certain elevation, I knew he was coming, and sure enough, he came up past my elevation, turned, and got above hill and came in and displayed, and that's where I shot him. So I hope this helps. I haven't done a calling video before, but I think I covered some basics in there. And again, I don't care if I don't sound perfect. There's no perfect elk sound. They're all different. They all have different voices. But one thing is for certain, there's nothing more exciting than going back and forth with elk and talking or whatever. But keep in mind, my bigger bulls, the bigger the bull, the less talking interactions we had. In fact, most of those upper end bulls, over 300, were shot without any calls made, and they had cows. Whereas a lot of my rag bulls, got a lot of those, that we called them in. So something to think about. But I hope this helps you be more successful. Check out PhelpsGameCalls.com. The AMP series, I gave you, I would go with, gosh, they're not that expensive. I'd buy all 5 and figure out which one works best for you. So thanks for watching ElkShape.com. Next video is I'm going to break down my Sitka gear layering systems for different times of the elk season. So we'll catch you on that next video.